What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting Ask Nick episode of the Viall Files. I am your host, Nick, joined by Allie and Amanda right now because Chrissy... We wonder what Chrissy is doing.
Mysterious woman.
Chrissy is the busiest
Sex
woman
parties,
I know.
camping. It really... Who knows?
All the above.
All of the above. How are you two doing today on this wonderful Monday morning?
I'm feeling very responsible. I went on a date on Friday where our date activity was financial planning. So I went through on Vanguard.com.
This was a planned date?
Yes, this was a planned date.
This is a first date?
No, this is it's like a guy who I was pretty excited about, and then I think both of us have just been like really busy with stuff, so I've sort of been like not dedicating very much time or energy to it, but it's like not over. So it's like we're going on dates like every like 1 to 2 weeks.
And you were like, all right, so let's go on a date. And then who said like, I got some financial planning I need to do?
Well, so he works in finance, and so I was like joking earlier on. I was like, oh, I keep wanting to like figure out like, you know, retirement savings, or like, you know, I've been trying to save for retirement and set up an investing account because that's what you're supposed to do.
But I was like,
you don't know what to do
street
with all
money
the
do you have? Is Nick paying you more?
Well, I saved up like so much through college, like a set amount of money because I knew I wanted to start investing. And so this guy, we kept saying like, oh, he's going to help me invest. He's going to help me invest. And then finally we were like, we're going to make it happen. Like we're going to plan a whole date around it. And so we did. He helped me invest.
Great.
Damn.
It was, but like we went to Trader Joe's ahead of time to pick up some drinks, and the cashier, you know, they're always so chatty there. And so the cashier was like, what do you guys have planned for tonight? And I was like, setting up a Roth IRA. like the lamest woman in the world on a Friday.
That's kind of fun.
And did you end up cashing out at the end of the evening?
Ooh. Yes.
It was like on top of their like financial plans. Like it was all one big thing.
Yes. I
Was like a financial planning part of the dirty talk?
It's like you're a bad girl not saving for retirement yet. But it did make me feel very appreciative of him. It did make me feel very connected and appreciative of him. I was like, that was a very kind thing of you to spend your Friday night doing. So I would say it was great foreplay.
Great.
Damn.
Did you do anything fun?
I've been in Minnesota for like 10 days. So if anyone missed me, thanks. And I was like, I'm either going to come back with a Minnesotan accent or I'm going to come back like my South Dakotan relatives and just be like, I ain't got no shit for you today.
You sound normal.
Thank you. I would have loved for you to be a fly on the wall observing my cousins' relationships because I think you would have had a lot to say. It's always an interesting time.
Love is messy. I've been watching... Natalie and I just started watching Sex in the City. Well, she wanted to watch it again, and I had never really watched it. Like I'm familiar with it. I've watched it with various girlfriends, an episode here or there. I've never like fully sat down and watched it. It has been eye-opening, and I think I've given you guys the assignment to start watching Sex in the City. Have you?
I'm waiting on your HBO password, but feel free to send that over.
Isn't it like free or something?
We're over here with like Roth IRAs and HBO Max. I'm like, is anyone else suffering? Like,
because you live in a fancy building, Allie. Allie just moved into a palace.
Have you watched Sex and the City?
Let the listeners know that Allie moved into a palace.
Well, my biggest takeaway in the first 7 episodes is that I didn't know. Like, I wasn't sure. I was under the impression, being an outsider from the show, that people thought of Carrie Bradshaw as some sort of role model.
No.
And I don't know. Well, but she's an
icon.
She is why the show exists. She is toxic and terrible. And if you get advice from Carrie Bradshaw, and you've had problems with love, that would make sense. I mean, I don't understand. She meets Mr. Big. They date for, as she claims, several months. Let's call it 6. And in the first few months, the biggest drama, again, Mr. Big, he's again, I get that he does some other shit later on. So I'm only talking about the first like 7-8 episodes. In the first 7-8 episodes, he's just pretty upfront with like, I've been in love before, I'm divorced, I cheated on my wife, I was young and stupid. He's very direct with her, right? I mean, they haven't really defined the relationship. She's a terrible communicator. Every time she asks him, he gives her very direct answers. And then they start dating, and then all of a sudden they have this trip they plan on. She farts in front of him. He handles it like a total mature person. She like disappears for 3 days, shows up in the middle of those 3 days, tries to force herself on him while he's watching a football game, and out of nowhere, he's just like, what are you doing? And then she storms out all over a fart.
Would you freak out if someone tried to force themselves on you during a Packers game?
I would have the exact same reaction Mr. Big did. Is like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, huh?
Like they're on the 1 yard line.
It would just, yeah, it's just like, just because you want sex right now doesn't mean I have, like, it would just be like, I'm like in the middle of something, whatever, whether it's a football game or something else. And then she storms out. She doesn't call him. And then fast forward to when they're taking their trip, she just is like, I need to know I'm the one. They haven't even traveled together. They haven't even taken a trip. And he like a lot of guys, like young immature guys, might actually be like, you know what, fuck it, you're the one. I'll just say what you want me to say. Let's go on this trip. He doesn't. He doesn't have an answer. Again, they've only been dating for several months. He can't give that answer, and she breaks up with him. She breaks up with him, and then fast forward a few episodes, they get back together, start talking, and she like hides it from her friends. She finally admits it to her friends, and then Charlotte's like, he was terrible to you. I'm thinking, what do you mean he didn't do anything? I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just like she creates drama out of nothing.
Yeah, well, your friends, like, I feel like that's always the thing with like getting advice from your friends, is that they only see the emotional impact it has on you.
No, I get that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to shun. And then Charlotte, Samantha and Miranda are definitely the best. They're the most mature and self-aware about themselves. The only difference between Samantha and Charlotte is like, Samantha owns her sexuality and the fact that she has sex, and Charlotte is the girl who like participates in hookup culture, totally fine, but wants to pretend that she doesn't because she wants to live a fairy tale, and so she's just constantly a walking contradiction. And yet I feel like a lot of women watch this show and looked up to Charlotte and Carrie the most, and it's a goddamn mess. It's why, like, thank you, Sex and the City, so because annoying. It's why it makes so much more sense to me now why people call in with these questions, and I'm just like, whoa, what are you doing?
The best quote from Nick this morning was, "I have a show because of Sex and the City."
100%. It's a nuts. I'm watching this, be like, what the fuck? How is this? And I'm just wondering, and I didn't know. I'm curious. When people were watching in its heyday, were they did they just find Carrie relatable to their own bullshit and then a self-awareness of like the bullshit we all just fuck up? Or were they looking at Carrie Bradshaw as like a how-to guide? I mean, she's the sex, and she has in the show, her character has like a column on sex and dating.
Nothing is more unrealistic than the fact that she is like a writer every so often and like affords designer shoes in that apartment in New York. I'm like, none of this is real.
Also, she's a chain smoker.
Nick's biggest issue is Sex in the City.
She's just smoking all the time. Even when she's literally working. There's a scene where she's working out and smoking. And she just
Well,
more to report, because Natalie and I are in full Sex in the City.
Well, this is just going to become a Sex in the City podcast.
What to not to do. Anyway, we have a great episode for you. A lot of great, interesting callers with some hopefully good answers. Don't forget to subscribe. Rate 5 stars, all that fun stuff. We were back tomorrow with some more Bachelor recap. Either way, a great week lined up for you. Thanks for listening. As always, let's get to our callers.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Hi, I'm Celine and 24.
How can I help?
About 6 years ago, I got into this situation with a boy I liked, but it never really went anywhere past the bedroom. I mean, we're, pretty frequently at his house throughout the summer. You know, it was just summer flings my junior and senior year. And I took it for what it was. He didn't want a relationship, at least, you know, with me. And I kind of accepted that and didn't, you know, ask for anything more of that.
Junior and senior year of high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I'm 24. So he's been in my life for quite a while. The summer of going into my freshman year of college, actually, I started seeing another boy that, you know, showed me a lot more attention. I was seeing him much more frequently, you know, obviously, you know, we were sleeping together a lot more. And so I would still see this, you know, the other guy that I had been with since I was a junior. But I was seeing the new guy a lot more. So a little bit into my freshman year of college, at this point, I live 8 hours away from both of them. So I was, you know, doing my own thing. And shortly after, I found out I was pregnant. And, you know, I was 18 and, you know, just a lot of mixed emotions and trying to figure out, you know, what the exact date of conception was. And, they're very close in when I slept, because I had
you weren't
slept
entirely sure who the father was at the time.
Yeah,
okay.
pretty much. And I guess 18-year-old me just figured, well, I slept with the one that likes me more, and, you know, I slept with him more, so, you know, it has to be his. And so that relationship, that whole, ended for other reasons, and it didn't work out. And we didn't do a DNA test. I don't know, for whatever reason, we just I just figured, yes, it's his. And I totally didn't put into the factor that, you know, I did sleep with this other guy around the same time of conception. During the time that my, you know, the presumed father and I were together, which was about 2 years of my daughter's life, I would still see the other guy. And it was like maybe 3 times out of the year, we'd, you know, call each other up. And
did either of them or both of them or none of them like think they were the father?
The one I was actually seeing never questioned it.
He just assumed it was his. I mean, well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, he and I were dating, and I wasn't, you know, wasn't like this.
And you didn't have the guts to be like, it might not be yours.
Oh yeah, no. That was, I mean, a part of me was also very scared of him, but then he was also the one that was, you know, always taking me out, always, you know, included me. But then there was a toxic side of the relationship that, you know, I was also very scared to talk to him about it. But this, you know, the one that I had known longer asked me a couple times, you know, is there a possibility? And it got to the point where I was just like, no, she's not yours. Because he kept asking. I was like, no, she's not yours. I already did a test. Like, drop it.
Who does she look more like?
She looks more like the other guy. She's my, you know, the presumed father and I are much light complected, and my daughter is very, you know, much, you know, darker toned. So that's where, now that she's getting older, her features are finally showing much better. So, you know, like, and her skin tone is finally, you know, at that, okay, well, this is going to be her skin tone. And then her hair color, just little things. And then the way, you know, he would laugh is also how she laughs. And then, you know, one guy was just, you know, very just ugly and toxic. And, you know, the other guy was just always nice, but never wanted anything with me. And she's just like the sweetest little thing ever. I mean, I got really lucky.
So do you know now? I mean, like, where are we now?
So no, see, that's the thing is, I think, so my ex and I broke up almost 3 years ago. My daughter's now 5. So 3 years ago.
But he must still be in your life to some degree, because he's not. So he's like...
He's not.
So,
and see, I never really brought it up because
does he think he's still the father?
Yes, he does.
So he thinks he's the father and choosing not to be a father.
Oh yeah, no, he's actually in prison for other reasons, and so he was absent even when we were together. It was like our home was a revolving door, and it was just really bad. It was just, ended up leaving that relationship and just being like, you know what, I'm not even gonna fight for you to be around, because I don't know, like if I'm fighting for, the actual father of my child.
What's the question?
So I guess my question is I don't want any kind of relationship with the guy I actually think is the father. And I don't want him to feel obligated to, step up to the plate financially. I've done pretty well on my own raising her. But I think I just want to know, I've been questioning a lot, and I don't know how to go about that, because I don't know whether I want everything to completely change. My daughter and I have been on our own for so long, and, if he wants to be involved, I'm kind of scared of that. But then I'm also like scared of the rejection also of, maybe he just might not want to do a test, and that'll also be like,
So intimidating to want to get therapy or work with a mental health professional, and there's a lot of hurdles. BetterHelp is helping you make that easier through doing it through the comfort of your home. Whether you are stressed out about work, anxiety, money problems, family problems, it really doesn't matter. You don't even have to have a justifiable reason. Maybe you just want to talk to a healthcare professional. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's a professional counseling done securely online. There is a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log in from the comfort of your home. Again, you can switch if you get assigned to a person and don't like the vibe, you can always switch. The important thing is, if you ever thought getting therapy, BetterHelp is there. Can't say enough good things about it. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. Visit BetterHelp.com/ViallFiles. That's VIALLFILES. That's better, HELP, help. And join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Viall listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/ViallFiles. Summer is here, and there's never been a better time to try a shirt from Untuck It. That's right. Look your best, all while being comfortable. You don't want to be stuffy, and honestly, sometimes it's a little too hot to tuck it in right now. You know what I'm saying? They have performance shirts that wick away sweat. They come in all different sizes, up to triple XL. That's right. So whether you like a slim fit, a relaxed fit, a tall fit, Untuck It has it for you. They have 85 stores nationwide. They have, again, fits in all shapes and sizes. I love it. Natalie constantly compliments my Untuck It shirts. They have also different types of designs of shirts. Really, whatever you want in the shirt department, Untuck It has for you. And the best part is you can look like a stud and not look sloppy, all while having it freely untucked. Free returns and exchanges. Use code VIALL for 20% off your first purchase at untuckit.com. That's VIALL for 20% off your first purchase at untuckit.com. UNTUCKIT.com. It's a heavy question. I don't know. I think you should probably even talk to get a professional opinion on this, like a child psychologist and think. There's a lot to consider, right? There's just the things going on in your head that you obviously, I'm sure as a mother, you're considering your daughter's feelings, not necessarily even now, but when she gets older and start asking about her dad, the fact that the person she thinks or the presumed father, he's in jail right now. He sounds like a pretty not great guy. And there's an aspect of making it pretty clear that he has no reason to come back in your life, especially if he gets out of prison, things like that. Then there's the aspect, like you said, you're right. As the mother of your daughter, I think the courts are in your favor. So there's that, depending on how much you want this other guy to be involved. If he chooses to be involved, then like you mentioned, the rejection part of it. Like, well, I think that's the least of your worries, right? Like that's just your ego. You can get over the fact that he doesn't want
that's
to.
just me.
But it sounded like, I don't know how long ago this was, the person you think might be the father, he wanted to know, at least at some point.
Oh, yeah, no,
right?
And I mean...
As a guy, as a man, I would be crushed if I found out I was the father and I didn't have an opportunity to be the father to my kid.
See, and then it's like weighed heavy on me for the past year. It's been extra because I've been questioning him for over a year now, and this is the first time I'm ever talking about it. So it's still kind of hard to put into words how I'm feeling and the situation. But he will reach out periodically, and I started listening to your show last year, so I've been very like, when he reaches out, I'm like, no, like you used me for that time period, and you don't know who I am anymore. But then it's also, I also have something very serious I need to talk to him about. But every time he reaches out, it's like, I don't know, it's just not the time, and I feel like it should be a face-to-face thing, and I don't know, it's very weird. Like, he still reaches out, so it's not like he's completely not in my life.
Potentially good. Also, like, thanks for listening. Thanks for taking my advice. Also, like, every situation's different. You were both 18, like, so I think you both deserve a little bit of grace with, him not wanting to commit to you when he was a junior in high school or a senior in high school. And it's great that you set your boundaries and things like that, but he might be a different person. You say you're a different person. You clearly, I'm not coming down on you at all, but like you definitely made some choices back then in terms of like not knowing who the father was and just guessing and let some guy believe he was the father and some other guy who might be, like not maybe the best way to handle it. Like, again, I'm not trying to like come down on you at all, but like you were also 18, like you said, scared. And there's a lot of reasons to be worried and like, and I don't know what it's like to be in your position. So like, you deserve some grace on that as well. Like, but my point of saying this all is like, try not to overanalyze or be overly critical of how both of you handled a tough situation when you're 17, 18, 19 years old. I don't want to tell you what to do. I think it might be there's a lot of reasons to have some tough conversations with him. Acknowledge you were scared. You're sorry for not for doubting, like you didn't really know and you wanted to believe it was the other guy you were with, and like he might be mad that he didn't, but like, yeah, it's like you definitely are in a position where there's probably no perfect way you can address this without him not getting a little bit frustrated, venting to you, having some frustrations, having a million different feelings. Like he might be excited he's a father, but also mad that he hasn't been able to be a father, also scared that it's like, it's one thing, like, am I the father? But now, like, what's his current dating situation? Does he want, like, whether you want to or not, he's like, there's a financial responsibility. He's going to start thinking about, like, I have to like take care of my daughter, I think you just got to try to have some tough conversations. It's a part of life. Obviously it's a part of being a mother. Like, you just have to do this. All while I think, like talking to a therapist about the best way to go about this. I think it's important to like, what's your support system like?
I have a really good support system.
What do they say?
My parents, this is the first time I've talked about it. Like, I have not told, nobody knows.
I think you need to start there. I think if you got a good support system, talk to your support system, get their take, especially whoever you, like, if you end up talking to this guy, like, I think it's important that your support system knows, right? I think it's important that they're aware of this, situation you're in and the difficult conversations you might have to have if you decide to have them. And I think it's important that your support system is fully aware of that, so they can support you and they can have your back and they can make sure that, however this guy acts, that you're protected and you're safe. I think that's important. And then, like, you're just going to have to, I think it's probably, you probably should just have this tough conversation, you know?
Yeah, it's a weird, it's a weird.
And this could be a blessing. He might be like, you know what? I'm mad, I'm frustrated, but ultimately I'm just glad I know. And then you could, you know, and then you might be bringing like a really great father into your daughter's life. I mean, you know, there's a lot of upside to this too, potentially, you know. Right now you're doing a lot of guessing with not a lot of information, like no information on something you should have some information on.
No, definitely. You know? I think talking to my support system and seeing what, you know, we should do or take care of before I do eventually tell him.
Listen, you made some bad choices and fucked up a little bit when you were 18 and scared. Like, I think anyone can kind of at least try to understand and appreciate that without like judging and criticizing you so much. Be like, how the fuck can you do this? I think anyone could. It's a scare. I can only imagine how scared you might have been. And it could literally have happened to anyone in your position, who, you know, a lot of, I think most young 18, 19-year-old men and women are participating in sex and probably not doing it very safely sometimes. So this shit happens. And so you just got to try to, you can't do anything about it then. You can still make some good decisions and have some tough, awkward conversations, and it can still have a very positive outcome overall. But start by telling your support system.
Okay. Yeah,
that's good practice too.
Probably a good start.
It's good practice for another tough conversation you're gonna have.
That one's gonna be interesting.
And listen, it's very easy to convince ourselves of a different reality. I can totally empathize with like you just like deciding your current boyfriend was the father because he easily could have been, and you're just like, nah, it's not, you know, and all of a sudden you're just like, you know, something in your gut's telling you maybe it's him, and who knows? It may end up being this the guy you always thought. You just don't fucking know. You just have to find out.
Yeah, I think I just need that clarity to finally like have, you know, peace of mind and know that okay, then this is, you know, this is just the way it is, or, you know, possibly it's over here.
Do you have any DNA from your ex-boyfriend who's in jail now that you could just like?
I don't, and I would be so terrified to ask him.
Yeah, no, I get that. I don't want to have to, but it'd be nice if he had a toothbrush lying around the house where you could just see, I've tried doing that, but nobody's really cool. Well, it's because we don't talk to that side of the family at all. They've completely, you know, just not good people to have my daughter around, and, you know, and so it would be hard to get a hold of his DNA, and it's much easier to just, you know, go to the other guy and be like, okay. Well, I'm sure you all like to keep your home clean, and you're like using it with natural, safe, quality products like Mrs. Myers. I'm a Mrs. Myers fan. I get my Mrs. Myers from Grove Collaborative. That's right. Grove Collaborative is an online marketplace that delivers natural home, beauty, and personal care products directly to your door. Their aim is to make living a healthier lifestyle easy and accessible to you and your family. Every product they sell is guaranteed to be healthy, effective, eco-friendly, and affordable. Shop with confidence knowing everything you buy from Grove Collaborative is good for you, your family, your home, and the planet. They make it easy as possible for you to make the switch to natural products. So they carry the brands that you know and love, like, again, Mrs. Myers. That's where I get it. Seventh Generation Method and Burt's Bees, as well as the best-selling Grove-made products like seedling tree-free paper towels and Grove laundry detergent dispensers that cuts plastic waste by 80% and 100% recycled plastic bags. I could go on and on about the quality of products that they have, and the best part is they make the shopping experience so easy and convenient for you. With Grove, you don't have to shop multiple stores or search endlessly online to get all the natural goods you need for you and your family. Join over the 2 million households who have trusted Grove Collaborative to make their home happier and healthier. Making the switch to natural products has never been easier. For a limited time, when my listeners go to grove.co/VIALL, you will get to choose a free gift with your first order of $30 or more. But you have to use our special code VIALL. So go to grove.co/VIALL to get your exclusive offer. That's grove.co/VIALL. Well, I do think in general, I do think in general, one thing you said would just be easier. I think you need to start making some of these harder choices, because you've gotten yourself in trouble and gotten yourself in a situation in the past by like, it's just easier to assume and think this.
Yeah.
So
it's not smart.
Which is not smart, right? So stop doing what you think is just the easier thing and the easier conversation and the easier thing just to assume in general. And you do need to start having some tough, awkward conversations. You just have to set yourself up to be safe, protected, and have a good support system when, you know, sometimes tough conversations can go badly, you know, and they can be a lot of anger and hurt and things said. So it's just good to have a good support system, and it's, you know, be grateful that you have that and
you're right.
Lean on them.
That's good.
But stop taking the easy choices, because as you now know, sometimes the easy choices can create a real big fucking mess.
Yeah. But no, thank you so much for the advice, and I will keep y'all updated.
Yeah,
yes,
please.
It will be soon.
Please do. Yeah. Sorry you're in this mess, but I do think there's a great chance for this to end happily and end on a good note. And do you think this guy's a good guy that you know, from what you know?
I think he would be a good dad. I would not want him as a partner, but he would be a good dad.
Oh.
So that would be good for her.
Great. Well, best of luck. Keep us posted.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Hank. I'm 25.
How's it going?
I'm a huge fan of you. I'm really excited to be here.
All right. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for whatever. And how can I help, buddy?
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a difficult situation. So I've been dating this girl for the past few months. I think she's incredibly beautiful. I honestly think she's way out of my league. We have overall a very functional, healthy, happy adult relationship with legitimate long-term potential. She's really my dream girl in like every respect.
How long have you been dating?
We've been dating for about 3 months.
Okay.
So the one problem is that I'm addicted to porn. And I've been addicted to porn for about 10 years. And I've recently discovered over the last 3 months how detrimental it's been to my life. Essentially what happens here is I'm more interested in porn than I am in actual sex.
Okay.
And I've told my partner that when we have sex, I do it for her and not really because I get a significant amount of pleasure out of it. And she was very upset about this, and she feels like that negatively affects our sex life, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So I want to make it clear that I do recognize that, like, I have a problem here, and I do want it to stop. But I have tremendous difficulty controlling this impulsive behavior, and I wonder if you have any recommendations for how I can control it and how I can communicate with my partner better.
Yeah. You know, I want to be very careful with the advice I give here, because as I'm not a therapist in this, and I don't know much about addiction. So my first question to you is, that's great that you recognize it. What have you done? Are you thought up like therapy would be a good place to start?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been seeing a therapist for the past like 5 years or so for like other things going on.
Okay.
And I've brought this up, obviously, like more recently.
Okay. And what do they say?
And he suggested like support groups, or maybe seeing like a counselor specifically to this issue, more of a specialist.
Yeah.
And I'm open to that for sure.
Okay. Well, I would be more open to that. Like, here's a question I have for you is, you know, the problem you're gonna you know, this is a very sensitive issue in relationships, right? Like, you've only been dating this girl for a few months. To be totally candid, you dealing with this is going to require an incredible amount of patience and understanding on her behalf. Yeah. So much so that it might be too much to ask anyone who's been dating someone for a few months. To be totally, but either way, despite her being your dream girl, as you say, it sounds like you recognize that this addiction is not sustainable, and whether it's this relationship or future ones, it's going to affect every relationship you have until you deal with the problem.
Absolutely.
So I think you just kind of have to be committed to whatever it takes. So, getting the support groups, specialists, and then, hopefully she's she might not be okay with the fact that her new boyfriend is seeking in support groups for porn addiction.
I communicated with her.
Yeah. How does she handle that?
This problem.
How does she handle that? Not everyone handles those things great.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's handled it as best I could possibly have asked her to. She's basically saying that, it's something that I have to get figured out, and that, she give me time to figure it out, and I don't want it to come to a point where it's like, you have to stop this like right now or I'm leaving. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I want to get it figured out like before it becomes a much bigger issue.
I'm just out of curiosity, like and if you're willing to share, we'd appreciate it. What do you mean by you're addicted? Like, how much are you consuming? Is it just like every time you masturbate, or like you just like watching it 24/7?
No, it's not 24/7. So I would say I binge it. I would say, like, for example, like within these last 3 months, I might go 2-3 days without it at all. And, and even though I have this impulse to do it, and then maybe one day I'll watch it. And once I start watching, it's like an hour or two a day. So right now it's like in binging of times.
You even watch it when you're not like masturbating?
Correct. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Do you ever masturbate without watching porn?
Oh, no.
Okay. This is just a guess on my part. I want to be very careful that I'm not giving, like, I don't know if this is going to work, but like, also like, I think part of porn too is it becomes this fantasy. It gets in your head. You start thinking about it. It's very aggressive stuff, right? It's all, they always have these like setups or what it's about, and then the scandalous, and then so like lovemaking or mundane sex kind of becomes, well, mundane, right? So like also your imagination is almost deteriorating in a sense. Like, you should try masturbating with your head.
Okay.
Try to do it without porn. I mean, just start there. You have to almost, again, you say you're addicted, like, need it less to become, stimulated. So even when you're masturbating, try to do it without it, right? Also, you just have to have some discipline. Like, can you block websites? Is that a thing? Can you block yourself from websites?
Yes. Yeah, I can. And what I've had in the past, I've had like someone like change like the passwords to my account.
Yeah.
So that's for like the paid services that I subscribe to. But then there's like so much free porn on the internet too that like I can still just like give into those.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the self-control, that's where I think the support groups can come in handy, and how people deal with addiction and the impulses people have. Like, how do you say no? Like if you're an alcoholic and first you just like, I'm guessing like you try to remove yourself from parties and bars, but at some point you want to be able to interact with your friends and society. So how do you become the person who can go out to those places and social events and still say no, right? And I think you probably have to do some drastic things up front, like, get rid of these paid subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
You really got to try to do that, and then seek the support groups. And it's tough because it's you recognize it, and you're in this early relationship, so there's only so much you can expect to count on her for support. Like, and it sounds like you have reasonable expectations. Like, all you really want from her right now is to just not break up with you for it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
As opposed to like helping, have her be support you in this kind of journey, and maybe she will, and that'd be great for her. But my biggest advice to you is stop considering getting help and just follow through. Go for it. Like, go
absolutely
head into it. Like, really, take it seriously. Find these support groups. Focus, get your therapy that's focused on this, and you're just gonna have to challenge yourself to have some willpower and take those drastic steps, whether it's passwords or things like that, and go from there. Because it's good that you recognize it, because it'll always be a problem if
right.
if you don't do something about it. And it's something that people, future relationships will always take exception with to a certain degree. And then, and again, I wonder if it's one of those things too. Like, I don't know the answer to this question. Like, if you're an alcoholic and you get sober, like, you can't just be a casual drinker. You just have to stop. Like, is porn like that, where like once you're off the wagon, so to speak, like you can't really watch porn? That's I feel like it's a different thing. That's weird, because like even in a monogamous relationship, like, what about dirty talk? What about role playing and foreplay? Like, and how can you, like, a lot of those ideas come from like porn maybe, or whatever, or you fantasizing about taboo things, even with your girlfriend, like might mentally bring you back to like watching porn. These are all just kind of questions I'm bringing up. I don't have the answer to, but it is kind of, that's why it would make sense to find very specific support groups about this, because I'm guessing all these questions that I'm bringing up, there are people with answers that it's worked for them, and things you can practice and work on while you're in a relationship.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just start there. Stop considering getting the help and get the help. And in the meantime, practice not doing it. Like, just out of curiosity, when you're on your like binges, as you say, are you actively thinking, I'm doing it again, I shouldn't be doing this? Or like, what's going on in your mind?
It's tough to say. I would say there are definitely times where I feel like that, but like, it's sort of like once I'm on a binge, like I'm just kind of like mono-focused on what's right in front of me, and I don't think about anything else. Like once I kind of give into that temptation.
Interesting.
The other thing it might be worth doing is like, just like if you notice that you are doing that, just being like, why now? Like, that's something for a lot of people who are recovering from anything, like just being like, why now? Like, why am I choosing to do this now? And you might realize that like, oh, I do this when I'm really stressed about something, or I do this when I'm inadequate, or like whatever it is.
Yeah, that could be it.
Definitely.
Sure. Yeah, but I would try masturbating without it.
Okay.
Practice like going to that place, being sexual, being turned on without requiring porn. It might help, right? Because
definitely
there is a part, like, especially like you said, when you're having sex with your girlfriend, you're thinking about porn too much. You're probably not even present. You're probably just like in your porn mind. And my guess is that's, I wish we were more helpful, or I was more helpful about this, but I just want to be careful not to give you advice that isn't right. So I just think you should definitely stop considering help and get the help, and hope that, and I guess the biggest thing too is, even if your dream girl decides she can't do this, dream girls may be a good way to describe it, because you still have to get to know her. You don't know her yet, so don't get too wrapped up, and don't if she's not okay with it, this is priority number one, because if you don't fix this, it's going to affect other relationships.
No, I totally agree with you. Definitely.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, I appreciate you calling in. Very interesting stuff. I mean, I don't think you're the only one out there. I think it's, to some degrees, it sounds like, you're very honest about having a pretty serious case of it, but I think it's a spectrum of people, even like guys who like always have to watch porn to masturbate. Like, I think that can affect their brain psychology. It can affect their sex life. It can affect a lot of things. So I'm glad you called in and chatted with us about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your help. Really appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care. Best of luck.
All right, thank you.
All right,
have a good one.
How's it going?
Good. My name's Chris. I'm 24.
How can I help, Chris?
Well, I'll start with some backstory. So I've been dating this girl for about 8 months. When we first started, we probably haven't even known each other past a year. I mean, things started pretty quick, which I first felt like great, but I'm now starting to realize 8 months in, some codependence, or maybe some questionable like attachment habits, and maybe
in you or in her?
I'll say I'm starting to notice them more in her. I guess it's raising concern in me, but
okay. And so you guys you've been dating this person. You're still together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had some lengthy discussions. Yeah. Right. So we're working things out. Yeah.
So wait. So just to clarify, you've been hanging out. Like, do you refer to each other boyfriend and girlfriend, or you guys have been hanging out this whole time, and now you're having discussions about like potentially defining the relationship?
Oh, so we were hanging out. It originally started as like, just like a regular hookup thing, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
And then that happened for about a month and a half, and then we just kind of became serious. So we've been boyfriend and girlfriend for 8 solid months.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And now you're noticing some, as you call it, like codependency or attachment things. What specifically are you noticing? I get, like I said, like as we talk about on the show, like, we don't talk a lot about, or I certainly don't, like attachment theory and things like that. We're aware of it. We've had experts on come and talk about it. I'm not an expert to talk about it, and we can like consider it as a possibility. But also I think we need to be careful as friends, as people in relationships, to not necessarily diagnose our own relationships or ourselves or our partners. But I think we can try to find out maybe what's going on or what's bugging you, and whether it's something that you should look into further, or maybe it's an insecurity of yours. So what specifically is happening that you is giving you pause in the relationship?
I think it's kind of like those day-to-day behaviors that at first seemed like really sweet and endearing. And I mean, I definitely have thought recently about like the exiting of the honeymoon phase. Okay. But it's like certain day-to-day behaviors where I worry if there is a little bit more of like a compatibility issue.
Okay.
And maybe I overlooked it because, rose-tinted glasses.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah. So we both work. I mean, I kind of make my own schedule, but typically I'm working. She lives about an hour away from me. Okay. She just graduated college, has like a full-time job. So our time spent together during the week is typically 0. And then, we'll get the weekends together. We figure something out. We're out together the weekend. But then that weekend ends, and, typically you just go back home. Hey, I got to go, whatever. But it's typically a much more, I guess, it's like an emotional departure. It's a lot more, crying because, now we have to go back home.
From both of you or from her?
From her. She'll get very upset. She'll cry, leaving the house, Yeah. It's like Titanic every Sunday night, and, I won't let go. But
how old
to
is
me,
she?
it's like, she's 22.
Okay.
I'm 24. Yeah. And, I don't know if this
is this her first relationship? It is her first relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. So she had the very generic, college experience where she had a couple hookups, but this is definitely, she, as she told me, this is her first, time like being in like a legitimate relationship with someone. Yeah.
Okay. Is that the big example, or are there other examples you can give?
I'll say that's the most common one.
Okay.
That probably should have been picked up as a little bit of a red flag in the beginning and maybe addressed a little sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me a lot of my first relationship when I was 18 and we went to different colleges. It's my freshman year of college. And I didn't cry and she didn't cry, but I remember we would only see each other on the weekends. And that's like that saying goodbye was just like, when you were talking about it, I remember like I went back to that place mentally, and I remember like just being just fucking distraught, which is why I asked if it was her first relationship. So I think what she lacks is perspective, right? Which often a lot of people do when they're experiencing something for the first time, because they don't have the perspective of of ever experiencing a similar feeling, and it could just be she's really excited. I mean, that's definitely something she's going to need to like get a handle on. I don't know. I don't know if it's if all she is doing is just getting real, like she's crying. I mean, yeah, it's a little heavy, but I can't say based on that alone that like she's got some like again, she needs therapy or some attachment issues. I mean, she might just be really into you, right? And she might just be really excited and spends a lot of time missing you and just wish she could have more of you. Let me ask you this. Obviously, it's making you feel slightly uncomfortable, and I get why. You're just like, hey, I'll be here. Like, we have FaceTime and we can talk. Have you brought this up to her, like this kind of slight discomfort and the intensity of the goodbyes?
Yeah, we've had some lengthy discussions, and
how does she handle that? Did she get defensive?
No, she's not very defensive. She'll usually, I think she makes up for some sort of lack of perspective with her self-awareness. So I think sometimes, when I bring these up and I kind of try to add like some perspective to it, like the Sunday thing, like we FaceTime every night anyways, like we check in all the time. We're texting 24/7. Like, and I think when I add that, she kind of sees it, and she definitely voices to me, like, I'm going to put effort into like, maybe, calming this down, or like, working on like not letting it be such a stressful situation.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, how do you feel in that moment? Do you feel added pressure to like soothe her sadness, or it almost becomes stressful, hey?
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, I think early in our relationship, it did add pressure to me, where I started to feel like I had to do things to kind of compromise. And so, maybe like at like 4 months mark where, it was a fairly consistent thing, I'd be like, oh no, it's all right. I won't pick up my shift Tuesday and I'll come to you and we can do dinner.
Yeah.
And, oh no, it's all right. Like I'll ask if I can leave work early, and I'm over there on, one knee asking my supervisor, can I go with my girlfriend? Like,
I mean, I'm glad you bring that up, because you're right. It feels like a tightrope sometimes of like, going out of your way to like make your partner happy and taking, we talk a lot about like, is he into me? Is she not into me? And we always say, listen, if they make the effort, and clearly you're making the effort, but there is a toxic side to that. The flip side of that is like, how much are you expecting your partner to give up for you, and how much are you asking them to sacrifice to the detriment of the relationship or themselves? Like, if you keep like having to ask off of work, or maybe you're not focusing on your studies if you're in school, like that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Like you can't be doing that. So you have been able to talk to her, and she at least acknowledges that like, yeah, I like to see you, but like you shouldn't have to ask off of work on a consistent basis. Like once in a while doing something nice is great, but like your relationship shouldn't be, you shouldn't have to sacrifice like being considered a good employee or having hobbies or other interests just to make sure
passing grades.
Yeah. Just so she feels loved. So she does recognize that. Like that's not something you are still arguing about, whether how much you have to give up or not.
Yeah. She definitely, understands that how I feel, it kind of can make me in that moment feel like either I need to do more or I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
To kind of, because the quick fix to that is, let's just spend every day together. Let's just not have any other outside life, and you'll never have to be sad again because but obviously.
What's her friend group like? Does she have a lot of friends?
She is. So this is kind of where my compatibility question comes in. Her friend group is like deep rooted, like since pre-K friend group, fairly large, and I couldn't be more opposite. If you ask me where, who I sat next to, like for my last semester, I'd be like, I don't care. Like I am very like introverted, so her friend group is really large. Yeah. And she's very social.
And she's like, and does she have expectations of you of how you interact with her friends?
It means a lot to her. Yeah. So, that was kind of one of like the boxes that I had to check for her. Not necessarily approval, but more like, do I get along well with her friend group? And her core friend group is probably like 10, 15 people, And so when I did end up getting along great with them, it was a big thing for her. And same thing with her family. Like, she has a lot of these other circles that, it was important for me in the early stages to mesh with.
Gotcha. And you guys live an hour away from each other because why?
I'm at home. I'm commuting to school. I used to live at school. She just graduated from school, so she's basically just has a full-time remote job at her house. But we both moved home from college early in the COVID thing.
And your overall question is what? Like, are you on the fence of like, is this my person? Should I even consider like ending the relationship, or are you looking for more guidance given what your current situation is?
Well, I guess my issue through kind of thinking through the other, little behaviors is like, is this something that we can work through, or is this is how we are as individuals and we're just not, clicking well on certain levels? Like, are we just not compatible because, you want this level of attention and attachment, and, we've been told by everyone we've ever, her family or friends, like we are opposite. And that I've never really had been with someone that's like as different from me as she is. So that definitely raises question marks when those little behaviors kind of become concerning to me.
Yeah.
It's like,
I get it. So yeah, here's the thing. You guys are obviously young, right? It's her first serious relationship. I don't think you need or should try to make a decision right now or have an answer right now, right? I think what it is comes down to, I think a lot of young couples have a hard time doing is knowing what boundaries they should set, what's an appropriate boundary, what is not. Again, what's the difference between, making someone a priority versus sacrificing other things. Opposites attract, right? So we know that. You don't know if you guys are compatible. Like her friend group, yeah, it makes sense. She's a young 22-year-old woman, fresh out of college. Makes sense that she has a large, close friend group, right? Not everyone's like that, but it's pretty normal for someone who is a socialite to go out and have a large friend group. That's over time going to diminish, right? Also, you two could just be, again, you're both young, so there's a good chance that no matter what, you're just not going to end up together because of you're just both kind of figuring out life, and she's literally figuring out relationships, what she wants in a relationship and all these other things. So I think what you have to do, or what you should do and get good at doing, is just be confident in the boundaries you set. Like, hey, listen, I love you. You're great. I like being around you. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. Here's what makes me feel uncomfortable. Obviously, I know your friend group's important to you. I'm going to make the effort. She also has to respect and acknowledge that you are different. You are introverted. She can't expect you to be like her friends. She can't make you feel bad for being an introvert. She has to appreciate that you are an introverted person, that you will make the effort, but that effort might not meet her expectations, right? So it's not like, oh, God, I just wish you could do this. So if she wants to date an extrovert, then she should date an extrovert, right? So... But at the same time, you can be introverted and go out and have a good time. And like, that's going to use up a little bit more of your energy, and you're going to need to decompress, and she's going to have to be okay with that. She can't go around and be like, why can't you be more like Rob? Like that just, if she's doing shit like that, then like, that's not your person. But it might take her some time to learn how to date an introvert, right? So you both, because you're just early on in dating, you're both learning about yourselves, you're learning about relationship. You're to work, you guys are going to have to acknowledge the differences, and you say she's self-aware. That's a great sign for you. So a self-aware person can be like, I don't know a lot about dating, and have that kind of humility to acknowledge that like you don't have to get it all right or get it wrong. And so you guys both should like offer each other some grace that you do mess up. So it's great that you can go to her and be like, hey, like I miss you too, but like shit, like I don't know if we should be crying every Sunday, or I can't get off of work every Tuesday, and her being like, you know what, that is a little intense. I mean, it is how I feel, but like I recognize that maybe I need to chill the fuck out, right? So that's good that she can say that, because not everyone can be that self-aware. A lot of people might get defensive in that situation. So yeah, I think it's just about setting your boundaries about like, hey, this is who I am, still willing to be willing as individuals to go outside of your comfort level, your boundaries that you have, because you want to, you know, do things for them and make them feel like a priority, all while knowing that, hey, like you have school, she has a career, you both should be supporting each other's individuals, you should both be supporting each other's dreams. Like you guys should be talking about like what are her career goals, what are your goals, right? What is important to you outside of the relationship, and then you guys should be helping each other out meet those goals, right? And that shouldn't make you guys feel insecure about the relationship, and you shouldn't be worrying about growing apart. It could happen. Like that would be the sign of a young, healthy relationship. It's really hard to do in practice. And again, I didn't do that shit when I was that age. I can say that now, having been like, oh, I should have done shit like that, and I should have been more confident in myself. And you know, it was a young kind of toxic relationship of two like kids, right? But that's what I would say now, looking back. So it's just little things like that. But if she is self-aware, that's a really good sign. And then like I wouldn't obsess about compatibility so much, because like you can't decide right now if she is going to be your person, if she's going to be the most compatible person. But you do have to, what it is about you guys acknowledging the differences, acknowledging the things you want, setting boundaries, respecting those boundaries, knowing when it's appropriate to go outside of those boundaries to show the other person is a priority, and then see, with all those things into consideration, if you guys can continue to learn and know about each other and grow, and that every time you hang out with her friends, you don't feel like you're doing something wrong, or you're feeling you're not doing enough, or she's constantly disappointed. Because all those other things will just eventually like wear on the both of you. And then, you'll just end up breaking up, because like what often happens in young relationships is that you fall in love for whatever reason, you get excited, there's this bond you have, but you realize you're not really compatible. So you spend 6 to 12 months trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, because you just
that's my biggest fear. Well,
the good news is your biggest fear isn't the end of the world, and your biggest fear is called dating, and you know, it's
figuring it out,
and like you're gonna learn a lot from this relationship, whether she ends up being your person or not. So like, don't necessarily run from it. If you decide she's not your person, fine, right? But like it's okay to ask these questions, and it's good practice to try to talk with her about these things, right? And then see if she's willing to talk back. And shit, we always say like all those things aside, introvert, extrovert, friend, like communication is the biggest way, that's compatibility. If you can talk through these things that are bothering you, things that you guys are insecure about, and some of it will sound crazy, you know, because it's like I always say, like you're just two people who like don't know how to like drive race cars, and you've been given keys to a Ferrari, and you're trying to figure it out. So just give each other a little bit of grace, right? And not try to like point the finger or get mad, or if each other doesn't do it right, even if she makes you feel a little stressed out that you are an introvert, you know, like don't get mad at her. Just be like, baby, I'm trying my best here, and then see if she will recognize that you are trying your best, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I've been focused on, is just kind of letting the situation breathe a little more before I can rush to be like, oh, this wasn't my person. It's like, well, did I exhaust all of my compromises, or you know, my effort?
Just good at talking as a guy, you know, an introverted analytical guy that you might be. Like you know, don't try to over communicate or over fix. Like, you know, like that's something like all guys kind of make the mistake of, and let her feel and let her express her feelings, and then, you know, at some point you might be like, you know what, just deep down it's, you know, she lives an hour away. It might just be too much to try to make work. You know, maybe there are too many challenges. Like at some point it should be easy, man. You know, at some point you should be having more, you know, like you're a young 24-year-old, she's 22, you guys should be having a ton of fun. So there is something to think about that. Like, while I'm saying all this and all these things you guys can consider and work on, and you should, it shouldn't feel like a project. you know?
Right. Yeah. It shouldn't feel like, yeah.
So
I shouldn't be clocking out of work and then, feeling like
but feel it out. I think it's good practice. See how it goes. There, like you said, my greatest fear is that we're not like your greatest fear is not the end of the world, you know? And even if you date for a year and realize she's not your person, like you didn't waste any time, you know, you might be 25 and like have a quarter life crisis. Like a lot of people do. Like you're fine. You're super young. You're going to be totally fine. You know, people are settling down later. So, don't feel like you have to rush or you're not on any type of clock. You don't have to get this right. You know, if you guys don't work out, you're going to be totally fine. And so will she. But don't actually make it worse by overthinking and just, you know, people saying you guys are totally
control freaking the whole thing.
Yeah, totally. Just try to enjoy each other. And hopefully she cries a little bit less when you say goodbye.
I know. Hopefully the goodbyes don't take, half an hour anymore.
It sounds like she really likes you. So that's that's good. You know, she's
young, I think
young
it's
love.
just yeah. That's what it feels like for sure.
Yeah, but I feel it, man. It can get a little intense. It can be almost a little added pressure, but if she is self-aware and doesn't get defensive when you express your discomfort with the situation, that's a good sign, man. Not everyone's like that.
She definitely deserves that much credit. Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks for calling. Is there anything else I can help you with?
No, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you calling in.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Leah.
Hi, Leah. How old are you?
I just turned 28, actually.
Happy birthday. How can I help?
Thank you. Okay. Well, I have several questions, I guess. And basically, I ended what today would be called a situationship. But to me, it was a relationship. We called it a relationship.
Why do you...
just wasn't committed.
So you never defined the relationship with him.
Well, he just never gave me a straight answer. So He'd be like, we're not friends, clearly. We're not in a relationship, but...
Okay. All right. So I guess a situationship. All right.
Yeah. So I met him 2 years ago. We both live abroad. So I guess, there's just an atmosphere of like, it's temporary for many people. So you're here to have fun and stuff, but we were inseparable basically since we met, and we started hooking up, but we started spending so much time together that we became really close. He became my best friend, and I started hanging out with his friends a lot. So I became really embedded in their friend group. And I was afraid to define the relationship at the beginning. So that was on me. But he was obviously dating. He was on like Tinder rampages all the time, but I was his emotional and physical consistency. So I allowed him to have his cake and eat it too, which I realize now. But I would hit my breaking points and I would be like, listen, I like you. And I felt like when he knew I was about to walk away, we would have these moments where he's like, oh, I feel the same. It's just hard. So we would try it and then he'd go back on it. No, actually, maybe I don't like you. And then I'd be like, yes, I do. And then actually, I love you. And then, he'd go back and be like, but maybe it's not the kind of love that is needed for a relationship. So it was just always back and forth. We would try to cut off communication. We had 2-month no contact, but we'd always find our way back. And then we finally stopped talking, but COVID came. So he had to go back to his country. So the night before he left, he called me like 5 times, was like, I need to see you. I need to see you. We met up and he basically like cried in my arms and was like, it was you all along. I just wasn't ready and I'm still not ready, but I don't want this to change your perception on love and all that. And it should have ended there because I felt he was genuine for the first time about his feelings for me.
But it was like, he's like, it's you all along, but I'm still not ready.
Yeah, I'm still not ready and I'm leaving. I feel like he felt safe to say that because there was going to be distance, physical, continents apart. So it should have ended there, but we FaceTimed every day. until like last month. So that was October. So FaceTiming every day, talking every day, watching series together. And then a month ago, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm going crazy. I kept it a secret from my friends. No one knew I was still talking to him because they're like, he's toxic. But I defended him. And a month ago, I was like, I'm in love with you, but I can't do this anymore. And he responded with the text I sent you that was basically like, I love you as a person, but the connection's not romantic. And I realize why you thought it could be. But I hope what I'm saying doesn't change how you view our time together in the country we're living in. And so that was just mind blowing to me because I'm like, okay, well, now you just are making me question the past 2 years. I had just reached a point I was ready to let go. And now I don't know if I can trust my intuition anymore. I'm questioning other relationships in my life, if they're as genuine as I thought they were.
So here, the text he sent you, he wrote, well, in parentheses, I hope that I love and care for you as someone who I hold close to me, but not quite. But he writes, and not quite in a romantic sense. We do have that connection and click really well. I don't think that'll ever change, even if our relationship communication does. But I kind of figured you were thinking that way. I definitely have my part in playing along with it because of all the chatting and video calling, etc., despite thinking that. But regardless, I don't want you to think of this as I'm forgetting you or that all of a sudden I don't care about you. Like, I don't want this to change to sour, so all the things you said. And then my biggest takeaway is you didn't respond to that. Right? I
thought.
And then later on some point, I don't know how many days had passed, he just texted you out of nowhere, hey, how are you?
Yeah, which was to me appalling because I was like, okay, how do I respond to that? To me, I had told you in the long text, I can't do it anymore.
Hopefully you didn't. Like, did you not respond? Have you spoken since you sent that text? Probably, yeah.
I'm just like always afraid to end things badly. So I responded saying.
What do you mean?
I feel like maybe I want to be friends with him in the future at some point.
No, what you are is still in denial that this is going to ever turn into anything. So the reason why you want to make it amicable or you're afraid for him to hate you or be mad at you is because you are holding out hope that he's going to change his mind.
I am still holding out hope. I am.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do anything about it. And I feel like this is the first time I ended it. It's always been him. This was the first time I answered back saying, hey, I just need time to respond. I think.
Well, it's the first time you weren't afraid of getting an answer you didn't want to hear. It was the first time you put yourself out there and tried to define something.
No, because I had put myself out there, but he would flip-flop. So I never trusted his answers. When we were together, I knew he felt the same.
What do you mean?
And I never doubted it. Maybe I know he probably thought he could do better, or I expected I like you but not enough for a relationship. I expected I love you but we're not compatible. I didn't expect what we had was never romantic.
I mean, listen, I can tell you what it was. He really enjoyed you. He probably you were his abroad girlfriend, but he always knew he was leaving. He always knew he was going back. He always knew, like, and for him, his connection with you in no way was worth trying to maintain this long distance relationship. He had no interest of moving to your country. He quite honestly wasn't even interested in the expectation of having you come out to his country. He didn't want to even ask you to do that. But what he did love is having you around as his abroad girlfriend to, be, like you said, his support system, his consistent, the girl he would go to movies with or have dinner with or talk about his feelings, all while he also had the freedom to, like, date casually and maybe hook up with other women, but, like, always go back to you, the consistent girl who was willing to allow him to do this, who was too afraid of setting boundaries and defining the relationship because you were deep down kind of, knew he wasn't going to commit. And now that he's now back in his home country, he thinks of it like someone would, like, summer camp, You know, it was like a part of his life. He wants to cherish and value the memories, and he wants to think back on you as like a really nice time with a really nice girl. And yeah, I mean,
but then why did he keep it up for 10 months? Like, he would initiate the video calls, the texting, the boredom, hours a day.
Maybe he was having a dry spell back in his home country. I mean, people for all sorts of reasons love the consistency of communication. It's why catfishing works, right? In a sense, because like people might be getting catfished, but they're still getting value out of like not even FaceTime with someone, but it's just someone to talk to. And you guys did build some sort of foundation and familiarity. And he just told himself he wasn't going to date you, right? Doesn't mean he instantly had a girlfriend or he found that type of relationship or comfort with anyone else back at home. So he still had you to like have these conversations with. But once you tried to set this boundary and once you were like, hey, enough's enough, he was like, I don't want to, okay, I'm just, he was at least honest enough that he didn't pretend. But then where he's a dick is where he kind of checks in after you try to set this boundary.
Yeah. And it's always been like that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you both did things wrong. I mean, you definitely played a role in this in the sense that like, you know, and it's a tough situation. The all thing you can do right now is just follow through. You really have to follow through to that standard you'd set and that boundary you set for yourself, especially as it relates to him.
I've tortured myself, and like I started going to therapy, and I realized my mistake was trying to figure out what his problem was. And I never even focused on myself.
Sure. His problem was just like not wanting to like get in a relationship with a girl who lived in a different country. Maybe. It could be that simple.
But he was adamant that he was ready for a relationship.
How old is this guy?
27.
I mean, yeah, I think you just need to be very careful about trying to overanalyze every word he said because, listen, I'm not saying he's a bad guy or a good guy. He's just probably an immature guy who didn't really know how to articulate his feelings and was kind of full of shit and was irresponsible, also at the risk of hurting your feelings and leading you on. But you just need to be careful not to like overanalyze every word he says and what it might mean because like some of it is probably bullshit. And yeah, maybe what he meant was I'm ready to like meet someone who like when I go home to my country, you know, and meet a girl from my country or my hometown, you know, and, you know, maybe didn't want to, you know, I can't speak for him. I don't know why he, you know, most of what he said probably like he just kind of said it, or maybe he thought he meant it in the moment and then he said the wrong thing. And like, you know, relationships are often like that. Maybe you said some things that if you had a tape recorder back and he could like say you said or did this, like you'd be like, I don't know why I fucking said that. I was vulnerable or insecure or selfish, you know, like, so I just think it's important for you to just focus on what you know now. Like, listen, you had a fun fling and hopefully you can like look back and learn from this and still appreciate the good times. And yes, like you definitely allowed yourself, and you have to take some responsibility for not setting your boundaries earlier on and giving in and romanticizing the relationship. All very natural. We've all done this. We've all been, again, the biggest thing I think for you hearing your story is you have to accept it for what it is. You have to accept that it's over. You have to accept his answer, even though he's selfish right now and still trying to talk to you and reach out and say, hey, how's it going? Like, you need to believe everything he said here. You need to believe that he doesn't see that connection with you. Even if he, when he gets selfish, reaches out when he misses you or he's bored, because he doesn't miss you romantically. He just misses the connection you had. He misses the ability to call you up and be like, hey, can I just talk? You know, like you offered him that, you know, but doesn't.
So it's possible to, because he would always, I heard him joke to his friend one time that I'm his best friend who he sleeps with.
So.
And to me, like, I always figured that was what a relationship was. Like, to me, that's what I want.
A relationship is two people who think that, but also want to make sacrifices and want to give up the freedom of hooking up with other people and want to make the other person feel like a priority and want them to make them feel confident and secure and not confused in relationships. And you're hanging on to these like few phrases and words that he said that like kind of sound like a relationship, but or might be one aspect of so many other things that go into the type of healthy relationship that I'm assuming you're looking for. Yes.
So then what is the definition of romantic connection? Because to me, like a romantic connection doesn't mean you have to be in a relationship, does it? If you're like sleeping attracted to someone and you...
I guess my answer to that is why does it matter? I mean, you're trying to justify your relationship and how, like, you recognize that you have to take some ownership in this situation, right? But I don't think you need to beat yourself up about like why you allowed it to happen. Like, we've all been there, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've all been sucked.
It's happened to me before. That's why I'm worried.
Okay.
I need to know how, at what point. This is the furthest it's gone and the deepest it's been, but I've been in this situation where we're obviously not friends.
It's actions over words. You're getting sucked up into someone's words that they are saying, and you are allowing that to excuse their actions. Like, he'll say little things like, oh, you know, like, I don't know what he probably said a lot of shit over the time.
Yeah.
But he never really wanted to fully commit. You never felt, you know what a relationship is that you want? Feeling comfortable with someone, to not be afraid to set a boundary and ask for them to define a relationship. And if you can't feel safe and comfortable to do that, that's clearly not a relationship, right? So like, you like we talk about a lot on the show, like you were constantly willing to accept less than what you wanted or what you deserved, you know?
Yeah.
You were trying to find the silver lining in every situation that you were in with him. Every selfish act that he had, every boundary that he had, you found the silver lining of why it was okay or why it meant something, or everything he said. At the same time, throughout this whole relationship, you were always kind of feeling a little unsatisfied. You were never fully getting everything you wanted.
How do you not take that personally, like as an attack on who you are?
Because it has nothing to do with who you are. It's just like, yeah, that's your ego talking.
I know. And I know it's my ego, but it's just, it seemed like everything fit and it still didn't work. And I've never actually had an actual relationship. So I'm getting worried because I know time shouldn't matter, but I'm 28 and I've never even dated. Still, like, these guys have always found me, and then it's turned into this.
Yeah, but then you know, I don't know the other situation, but like there are a lot of red flags in this relationship, and those red flags might even be just starting off with like you guys were from different countries.
Yeah.
And you already knew going in, and I'm not saying that could have turned into love. You know, there's been plenty of, but people who like meet abroad already are just like, that's a hurdle we're going to have to get over. And so to get over that hurdle, you would both have to be like, I'm committed to getting over this hurdle. I'm committed to like making this work, because you're both like, we are a priority. And then you're on the same page. You're not confused about what the other person's thinking. You're not wondering if they're willing to make you a priority. It's clear. You're talking and communicating. You're not communicating with your partners. You're afraid to get certain answers. You get sucked up into a situation that you romanticize, and you will have a great date with someone or really, good sex. And then you'll focus on that great moment, all while ignoring all the things you're not getting. You're not listening to yourself, is my guess, right?
Yeah. And that's my question. Do I trust my intuition, or was I clearly wrong? Because at one point he told me to trust your intuition because I'm probably feeling the same way.
No, I think you're ignoring your intuition.
My intuition always told me he wasn't good enough for me and we weren't going to be in a relationship. But I got stuck on the fact that it also told me.
That's what I mean. You were ignoring you're ignoring your intuition. Yeah.
My ego just wants to know that he liked me.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'll never know because he's flip-flopped so much.
I think you know.
Yeah, I think I know.
He didn't
too.
like you enough, I guess, if you really,
Yeah. Okay.
You wanted to be enough for him to want to say, hey, babe, I don't care. I will move across the world for you, or whatever. Like, you wanted to be good enough for that, and it has nothing to do with you. And like, yeah, it's the rom-com. You're watching too much fucking, Notebook or whatever it is you're watching, and it's being romanticized, and it's, like we were talking, like being like, I don't know if you watch Sex and the City or the Notebook. Like, you look at those relationships, they're all fucking toxic. and they're packaged as romantic, fairy tales and love stories, right? So like, if you tell me that your intuition told you that, he wasn't good enough for you, whatever it is, you were not listening to that, because whether it's your ego or you like getting caught up in like, this could be a really great love story. If it's, people all the time get sucked up into how they met someone and liking how they met, and like be like, well, fuck, if I can make this work with this guy or girl, then I'll have a great story to tell at parties of how we met,
Yeah.
And literally people will try to like keep relationships going simply by how they met or the story that, and so you got caught up in the story, and you stopped paying attention to your needs and what really made you happy, and you got hung up on all these other things.
Well, I make, in the past, like, for example, this guy, his family was like, you need to walk away. His own family and his friends were like, you deserve better. So I still didn't listen, because in a way, if I feel like someone's acting based off their trauma, I end up kind of empathizing, like, oh, it's because this happened to him and this and this. So I have my breaking point, I feel like, takes a lot longer than most people, because like, I'll watch crime documentaries and I'd be like, oh, but the serial killer was like raped as a child and this happened to it, and I'm like, I can't do that.
I think you just have a big ego. I think you just have a big ego, because when someone tells you you can deserve better, your ego is like, well, why aren't you good enough to make them be better?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you need to like get better at controlling your ego, and you need to get better at listening to your gut and listen to the conversations you're having with the people you're dating, setting boundaries. And when they don't meet that boundary, don't let your ego go off and tell you why you're not good enough for them to want to respect that boundary. You just accept that they are not willing to do that. And that it's not a reflection of you or your self-worth or things like that. And you need to control that.
I don't even know how to date. I've never dated. I just
yeah, don't. You have.
And I'm moving back to the States after 5 years.
Okay.
And I don't even know how things work anymore.
Yeah, you do. I think you're being a little dramatic, if I'm being honest. You're 28. You're super young. You have been dating. A lot of people listening to this podcast or have done shit like you have. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've definitely dated. You might not have been in a healthy relationship yet, but you've certainly dated, right? You've gone out on dates, and you should go on dating apps, and yeah, I know. I knew I said that because I knew you were going to give me that look like, oh, I'm too good for dating apps. Like, no, you're not.
No,
I think you need a reality check, if I'm being totally honest. I think you have a kind of a disillusioned perception of love and dating and what you think you deserve.
So how do I fix that?
I think you humble yourself a little bit. And I think you go on dating apps. The world's on dating apps. Like, everyone's on dating apps.
I've had them, obviously. It just hasn't worked.
It's okay. Yeah. And you might not meet your person through a dating app, but you should be on dating apps, and you should use dating apps as a way to meet people, not find your Prince Charming. And through being open to meeting people, you might meet a guy you connect with. And then when you meet them, you should take it slow, and you should focus on getting to know them and setting your boundaries and paying attention to when someone doesn't, either agree with that boundary or want to respect that boundary, whatever that boundary is. And then you should not make excuses for them. And you should not let your ego trigger you and get you to be good enough for them to respect that boundary. And
it's just hard because I realize I'm doing it, but then I don't know how to stop it. I see the red flags and I take them in, but then I don't know how to act on it. Or like, I'm very self-deprecating, but at the same time, I know that I have a big ego. Like, I'll feel insecure, like, oh, it's because I'm not putting enough. It's because I'm this.
Well, self-deprecating doesn't mean you don't have a big ego.
Yeah, exactly. Which is something I realized I actually listened to your podcast.
Try therapy. I think you might learn, it sounds like you have a lot of self-reflection to do, and kind of like a lot of your questions on like, how do I control my instincts or understanding your own choices, and therapy is a great way of processing that. I mean, I can't help you with that on like one call, you know what I'm saying? Literally, it might take like a lot of, and there's nothing, therapy's great, like Everyone could use therapy. Like, I think you're struggling right now with getting caught up in these kind of romantic situations, and you're beating yourself up a little bit for having it not worked out. Your ego feels a little bit dumb for investing the time that you have and it didn't work out. Like, you're totally fine. You're going to be totally fine. You're going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to move back to the States, and you could look at this experience as a fun romantic fling that you had, that now you get to move back to the States as a single eligible woman who has everything in front of her, and can now, like, having had those experiences, like, if you are lucky enough to meet a guy, settle down and get married, you will look back on this as a fun adventure, you know?
I don't know how fun it was, but
I promise you will someday think about this and smile. You will. I mean, even looking back at some of my most vulnerable moments and painful moments and heartbreak, I look back and laugh and smile because I'm just so over it and moved on, and I've learned from those things. And like, you can't see that now because it's so fresh and you're currently dealing with it. But
I think I heard you say before, basically, like, that sometimes you hold on to the memory of someone because that's all you have left.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose them. And I feel like I'm doing that.
You don't want to feel like this thing was all for nothing. And
exactly.
Right now, you need to become indifferent to it, get over it, at the risk of it feeling like it was worth nothing. And so that eventually, when you are fully moved on and indifferent, you can reflect back and it can be a good memory. That's just going to take time. It might take 5 or 10 years. In the meantime, you don't need this to mean anything for you to, like, you know what I'm saying? This doesn't have to mean anything other than you just lived a little bit. It's just a part of your life. It's just a part. It's a chapter in your life. It's a page in whatever your story. You know, it doesn't have to mean a grand thing. There's gonna be small takeaways. Some of those takeaways you might not fully appreciate for a year or two. You don't need clarity like immediately. You know.
Yeah, I'm not very patient, but yeah,
another thing therapy can help with, you know, I do think you have a lot of, like, things that you need to, you know, probably work on yourself. Like, a lot of us do, and we all do. And therapy might be a great way for you to, like, process these things outward and talk to someone so that on a day-to-day basis, you can stop falling into these traps that you kind of set for yourself.
Yeah. But I actually have been going to therapy.
Great.
For like a year and a half.
And have you got any benefit from it?
I just feel like sometimes she's telling me things that I know that I'm doing.
Get a different therapist.
I haven't managed to,
you can get a trainer and, like, got, you know, like, different trainers, different therapists, different doctors. Try it out, you know. Also, like, just, you're doing fine. You know, you're doing fine in life. You're just in a bit of a rut. I'm trying to say get therapy, you're a mess. Like, you're totally fine. You got a little fucked up by this guy. You have an ego. He had all the power, and you feel a little bit used.
He had an even bigger ego. So
sure, yeah. Your ego's really in overdrive right now, it sounds like. And you're just having a hard time processing all this. But you're gonna be totally fine. When you move back?
In 2 weeks.
Great. I think.
But I'm moving back in with my parents. Like, obviously, it's going to be a transition.
So that's a great. I mean, you're in luck. I mean, congratulations. It's like that. You need to get out of this wherever you are. A lot of memories. You need to get a fresh start. Parents, whatever. I think that'll be good for you. I think I think it would be hard to stay where you are, and it's going to be fine. And I promise you're going to look back and smile about this. And I think as far as this guy goes, you just need to stop talking to him. 100%. Don't reach out to him hoping he's going to be sorry or change his mind or validate. Like, you don't need him to appreciate the experience. There's nothing he can say that's going to change your perspective. Just time and patience and an outlook on life is going to make you appreciate it later in life.
Okay.
All right.
That was really helpful.
All right. Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. What a great episode. Thanks for listening. Can't appreciate you guys enough. Don't forget to send in your questions at asknick@castmedia.com. Cast with a K. Certainly need those questions. If nothing else, we'll see you tomorrow. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos like our Tuesday Bachelor recaps and Wednesday celebrity and expert interviews. See you next time.